brand nerds, stand up. Oh, we're back at you. Another podcast, Brands, Beats, and Bytes. This one's different, LT.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, this one's going to hit different. Brand nerds, you all have heard people and maybe even yourselves, you've described others as genius. She, he, they're a genius. Let me read you the definition of genius. So this is classical origins. And origins and origin stories are important, brand nerds, very important. In ancient Rome, a genius was thought of as a guiding spirit or protective force attached to a person, place, or even an idea. It wasn't about intelligence, but more about an inner power or muse. This is the origin of genius. Inside, inner power or muse, not intelligence. It wasn't until more modern times that genius became a definition of intelligence. And so in modern times, genius is most often defined as extraordinary intellectual or creative power. It's not just high IQ. It's about originality, imagination, and the ability to see or create what others cannot. I want to repeat that last part. The ability to see or create what others cannot. So, brand nerds, if you put together the classical origin of the meaning of genius, along with the modern definition of genius, you begin to understand it's not just a description or attribute of a human. It's something that comes from within a human and comes out with power and force and influence. Today, brand nerds, we have a genius in the building. And you all know how much I love my hips and my hops. So I have to relate the genius that we have in the building to another genius. That is Jay-Z, Hova. So Jay-Z, he had a documentary that covered him in 2014 rather. And the name of this documentary is A Genius Leaves the Hood. It's the name of the documentary in 2014. I was asked to appear in it. So if in your free time, if you all want to go check this out, not for my appearance, but because of how they break down the genius of Jay-Z. On the Black Album, this is his, when he said he was retiring, Black Album, 2003, one of the tracks, LT, is What More Can I Say? What more can I say? And one of the bars in that track is not a Harvard student, comma, just had the, let's call it courage, because he had another word for courage, to do it. Not a Harvard student, just had the courage to do it. Larry, the person we have here in the building is a genius, has Hova-like, Jay-Z-like abilities, and might have something to say about a student somewhere and have the courage to do it. LT, please bless us with who we have in the building today.
Oh, DC, what a setup. What a setup. We have Jodi Anderson Jr. in the house today. Welcome, Jodi, and the bar's not too high for you.
Hey, thanks for having LT, DC. That was an incredible intro. Quite the historical context too, man.
Well, that's intro A now. You know the way this show works. You know it intimately, and brand nerds, you're going to hear why. So now we're going to get into the depth of Jodi's background. So brand nerds, the reason why, as DC alluded to, this is perhaps the most unique show because Jodi was actually a producer of this show when we launched. And for all the first 2 years where we recorded and produced Brands, Beats, and Bytes from the farm at Stanford University radio station KZSU.
The zoo!
That's right. If you go back and listen, you will hear his name as one of the producers. Well, Jodi is now an uber successful tech Silicon Valley venture-backed tech founder. Jodi is truly a brilliant person, as DC alluded to, and also someone with, dare I say, a truly huge heart. Let's walk you through that great background. So Jodi is from, as he says, Brooklyn, Brooklyn, not the Brooklyn of 2025. For college, he starts at Cornell before transferring to Stanford University, where he earns his BA in political economy and development and an MA focused on policy and technology. At Stanford, he also works at campus radio station KZSU and instantly connects with Tom Dioro, who we affectionately call the Podfather, as you all know. And Tom connects Jodi with us as we are beginning Brands, Beats, and Bytes. Jodi then becomes producer of this podcast and does so until the pandemic, which forces us to record the show via Zoom. Jodi is truly brilliant, is also someone with a super strong work ethic. Along with KZSU and our podcast, while he is a student, so DC, this is while he's a student at Stanford, check out just some of the work he does. 1, social media marketing specialist for youth sports app Mojo Sports. Next one, chief growth officer for Karma Board, a career and life management platform for students, recent grads, and military veterans. Next one, project and artist manager for CreateSafe, which is empowering creators and their teams to control their own enterprises. And the next one, program coordinator at Stanford Center for the Comparative Study of Race and Ethnicity, harnessing the capacity of the arts. This program seeks to intervene in processes of decarceration through an approach that focuses on humanizing rather than pathologizing the accused. In 2021, when he graduates from undergrad and is starting grad school, he takes a job with Reddit, where he spends the next 2 years in large customer sales, where he co-manages accounts and relationships with existing advertising partners, both with agencies and directly with Fortune 500 clients, some of whom you may have heard of, such as Apple, eBay, T-Mobile, Uber, Salesforce, just to name a few, helping drive year-on-year Reddit revenue growth. Also in 2021, and while he's still in grad school, Jodi co-founds Pipe Dreamers, a Stanford University-founded nonprofit STEM education and workforce development organization with a mission to educate, train, and mentor at-promise and underserved American teenagers and young adults, preparing them for the future of work, starting with design and coding skills. Jodi is still doing this today. In 2022, after obtaining his master's at Stanford, and while still at his Reddit gig, Jodi spends the next 2 years back at Cornell, where he becomes a director of technological innovation at Cornell's ILR's Criminal Justice and Employment Initiative, playing a pivotal role in creating and implementing technology solutions aimed at helping justice-involved individuals secure employment and pursue career growth opportunities. Additionally, Jodi conducts research on the effectiveness of these digital solutions, using the findings to inform and shape legislative policy. So if you have a scorecard, brand nerds, there is a 1-year overlap where Jodi is doing his thing at Reddit and Cornell simultaneously. Also in 2022, he becomes a researcher in the Office of Innovation and Technology at Stanford's Accelerator for Learning, where he plays a key role in connecting early-stage edtech, that's edtech entrepreneurs with essential resources to boost growth and product development. This work contributes to the development of more equitable and impactful education tools, ensuring greater access to quality education for all learners. All right, brand nerds, it's now 2022. Jodi completes his master's at Stanford, and brand nerds, in 2022, let's update our employment scorecard for Jodi, where he's working at Reddit, Pipe Dreamers, Cornell, and Stanford. But if that isn't enough, in May 2022, all of this great work he is doing actually is funneled into a startup he co-founds, which is called Rezme, which is currently Jodi's primary focus. Rezme is a venture-backed startup transforming the automated and illegal rejection of justice-impacted candidates by integrating with HR and ATS systems to operationalize fair chance hiring. At Rezme, they envision a future where qualified candidates are not held back by their past, By embedding compliance intelligence directly into HR systems, they aim to make fair chance hiring the default, not the exception, for every employer. They are building the infrastructure in ensuring every background check flag is met not with rejection, but with rigor, context, and the possibility of redemption. Brand nerds, you can start to see the throughput for all that Jodi has done, culminating in Rezme. Seems like a great concept, and listen to what Jodi and his team have done to take this from great concept to awesome business. This year of 2025, Rezme is the NBA All-Star Startup Competition winner and University of Pennsylvania Education Business Competition finalist. Rezme is part of the approximately 1%, yes, 1% of startups funded by venture capitalists with a Black founder. Perhaps most importantly, they have established working partnerships and tech collaborations with Workday, ServiceNow, the NBA Foundation, and JP Morgan Chase, just to name a few. By the way, brand nerds, if he has any free time, Jodi also volunteers at Spire, a nonprofit empowering the Stanford community to innovate within real estate, placemaking, and the built environment, and Upward Scholars, empowering low-income adults, mostly immigrants, by providing them financial, academic, and community support. We are so looking forward to this one. Welcome to Brands, Beasts, and Bytes, Jodi Anderson Jr.
Appreciate that, LT. Appreciate that. It's good to be back. Full circle moment for sure.
That's right.
Yeah, no doubt. All right, Jodi, this is the get comfy section.
Good.
And I will set this up. One of my favorite quotes comes from one of our business partners, Jodi, Jeff, who you know.
Shout out to Jeff.
Yeah. Shout out
That's right.
Jeff one time.
2 times.
What Jeff says is he's not the author of the quote, but he reminds us of the quote often. And that is genius is evenly distributed. Opportunity is not. I believe that.
As do I.
Yeah. Thanks, Larry. When I was a kid, Jodi, Larry knows this. After about the age of probably 9 or 10, around that time, I did not sleep one night in my home in Detroit, Michigan, without hearing multiple gunshots outside of my window every night. So much so, Jodi, that when I went to undergrad, which is Alabama A&M, shout Bulldogs.
Oh, the Bulldogs.
Yeah, my first night going to sleep in a dormitory with 2 other people, I did not hear gunshots and I couldn't sleep because I couldn't believe, Jodi, how quiet it was. That is part of my origin story.
Right.
Not many people know about that, but that is part of my origin story. I'm big on origin stories. And Jodi, your origin story, and just so the brand nerds understand this, when you all go out and spend your money on movie tickets and you determine the best movies of all time, the highest grossing, those movies that are in like perennially in the top 5 or top 10 of all time gross globally are stories that have an origin story. There's some superhero or character that has an amazing origin story. This is why we, the consuming public, are attracted to these kinds of stories. Brand nerds, I'll say this and then I'm going to ask Jodi to share his origin story. Jodi's my little brother.
Sure.
Yeah. I love this dude. I love this dude. Whatever he wants or needs from me or Larry or Tom Dioro, the Podfather, or Jeff, we will do. If we can't give it to him then, we're going to work to give it to him in short order. Jodi and I had the pleasure of hanging out this past weekend.
Yep.
We had a wonderful time. He was in town for Invest Fest, and we had a wonderful time. So during one of our meals, he was talking to me about living in China. He went over there for about 3 weeks. Most of us might go to China, and then we need to stay with our handlers because we can't maneuver it. Jodi speaks Mandarin, so he was
One of
able
many
to.
languages.
Yeah, he speaks Mandarin, which allows him to then escape his handlers and go get a tattoo amongst the peoples. So he tells me this in one location, and then we drive up to another location at the valet, and the valets are my Latino brothers. Jodi starts speaking Spanish to them. And I'm like, okay, what's going on here? My point here is going back to the genius setup. This brother's a genius.
Yep.
But Jodi, you have an origin story that may be surprising to some. Please share, brother.
No, I appreciate that, DC. Beautiful, beautiful time in Atlanta. Shout out to Atlanta and InvestFest in general. I will say one thing that the audience should definitely be aware of. When I first met you and LT, I think it was my first quarter at Stanford, and I had already drinking the kind of startup Kool-Aid at that point, and I was convinced that I needed to drop out. I was like, I have to drop.
Yes, I remember that. I remember the conversations we had with you. Yes.
And so when DC says, man, we all feel that Jodi's our little brother. That definitely was one of those moments like, don't drop out. There's a lot to be learned, to be gained here. Like, you're now part of the ecosystem, right? Just continue building, continue to build out the vision. And I feel like you two helped me do that, like get through the later years of undergrad and then continue on to what we're seeing today. But I'll get back to some of the origin story. One, well, I'm definitely from the Brooklyn where they don't put cats inside of strollers, and put jackets on dogs. But I spent some of my formative years in Albuquerque, New Mexico, not like Area 51, but Albuquerque. And so that's where I learned Spanish at. My grandfather was in the Navy. He served in the Korean War, and then he was stationed in New Mexico. So my birth mother sent me to live out there with him when I was a baby. And so my earliest years are very much in a place that is much different from the concrete jungle that I would later go on to spend the rest of my life in. My grandfather dies really early, sailor's death. So cirrhosis of the liver. Never seen him drink before, but clearly that's what happened to him. Once he passed away, I think that's when I returned to my birth mother and then really experienced what it means to be poor and Black in America, right? Like international poverty, but American poverty. Different order of magnitude, but still very much a non-ideal experience. And my mother, young, Black, not too much education, not too many job prospects, has 4 kids before she's 24 or something like that. No chance navigating the economy or society. And so we end up in foster care and group homes our entire childhood. And the state has their interventions, and I think this does help out in some way. But my mom loses her mind, gets committed to the hospital. So we don't really see too much of her. But during my last stint in foster care, we end up back in Brooklyn. This is Bed-Stuy. What's interesting? It's right around the time of like the Black Album, all that. This is 2020, like 2.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly. 50 Cent was making his epic rise. It was the undisputed king of New York. His introduction to coming back to Brooklyn. I was about 9 or 10 years old. So I can relate to those experiences you had in the DC. Brooklyn was a wild place for me. And my foster brother, he ran the entire like underground economy for our neighborhood. Right. And so because I lived there, and I was precocious, I could read, I could write, I was trustworthy, and I couldn't go anywhere. They hired me. That was the family business, right?
Well, also, I have to interject. Did you really have much choice? I mean, he hired you let's be honest, but keep going.
No, exactly. Like, you're hired, right? And there were other kids that lived there, but there wasn't much opportunity for them. It was really the reading, the writing, the math, right? Being able to maneuver different like cultures and contexts. Right. I'd been in a number of different states from then, since then, like Virginia, Tennessee, Texas, like you name it, just traveling around. And so I think he's seen that as an asset too, right? Because they go out of town. There's a lot of people that coming out of Brooklyn. If you know, basically.
Yeah.
So I was a part of that operation, mainly transporting packages and money and parcel to different like units all across New York City. Didn't think much of it, which is like I'm contributing to the family line of business. And of course that ends terribly. So that entire home gets raided by police. And
How old were you at that time, Jodi?
I was 15 at that time.
Okay.
That time. So I'd risen up through the ranks. I became pretty, good at it, right? I would say one thing, in the midst of doing all that, I was still very much a nerd. Not a brand nerd yet, but very much a nerd. So I was still in the honors classes, right? We would pull up in vehicles that were not registered to us to school. I have to go to school, right? I got this test I have to take. And then come back to the family business once I'm done with the school day. But that didn't sit well with the authorities, right? And so I went to a juvenile prison at 15. All of my brothers, all my foster brothers, like everybody went to some form of confinement, whether that's state prison or federal prison. And so at 15 years old, we found ourselves inside of maximum security juvenile prisons. I had a 2 1/3 to 7, another like 7 to 10 on top of that. It's crazy. It was crazy. But then while inside of that situation, again, DC was talking about this, the concept of genius, like the spirit that just lives with you to carry out a mission or bring that to fruition. There were a number of college programs that were inside these juvenile facilities. So once you get your GED, and then getting out like 16, and then starting the college program at 17, Cornell University got a grant from Warren Buffett's sister to fund a full degree granting program inside of prison. Right, so I'm about 19 years old at this point. I graduated from the juvenile prison to the big leagues, so they say, and found out that there was this college program by Cornell University. Didn't think it was real at all, right? Found out all you had to do is pass a test, right? Pay off some correctional officers with some cigarettes to make sure you could actually take it, and ended up passing, joined the program, broke every single record you could think of. Became valedictorian, graduated in like 2 years. And then my Cornell University professors launched a campaign with the government to get me out of prison like 6 years early, just off of educational attainment. And then it absolutely works. So I get out, I start attending Cornell University. This is like, 30 days from being inside of a 8x8 cage, basically. Right. And then find myself in Ithaca, New York, on Cornell's main campus, taking Chinese, taking a bunch of government classes, labor courses, and realized that the world is much different than the one that I was used to when I was a teenager, essentially. And then, of course, set my eyes on Stanford University as like being the hub of innovation. Like when I went in, I was making license plates for the state of New York, basically. So the medallions, and this is like a story that's going to connect how I seen technology changing everything. So I'm making these license plates and medallions for the taxi cab industry.
Right.
But when I get out into society, there's like Uber has taken over, right? One of the fastest growing startups ever. And I remember seeing that, like the world has fundamentally changed. But where do all these companies come from? Like Airbnb, Nvidia, Netflix, right? Snapchat, right? Instagram. They're all like Stanford University, like alumni. And so that put it in my head, like, I have to get there. I have to get there.
Wow.
And that was the beginning of that. And then my application to get there, I think it was just upfront about what I had gone through as a kid, steps I had taken while on the inside to adapt to the new world, which included learning Mandarin. Like I realized a bunch of human beings speak Mandarin, right? And their economy is growing super fast. So I paid another few cartons of cigarettes while on the inside to get some of the latest like Mandarin books and cassette tapes, and taught myself that with a little bit of calculus while I was incarcerated, and put that right on the application, and then got into Stanford on a full academic scholarship. And that was the beginning of me running into DC and LT, like literally like a month after arriving in Silicon Valley. Yeah.
So I didn't realize it was that close in proximity. I knew
I
You
didn't
had
either.
recently started, but I didn't realize it was a month in.
Yeah, I just got there. I just got there. Yeah.
Wow.
All right. Okay. All right. Larry, anything more before I say
Please,
something and give it to
please
you?
go.
Brand nerds, after listening to that story, particularly if you heard the upfront piece that Larry laid down the statistics of Jodi Anderson Jr., what this does is, I hope, alleviates you brand nerds from any moments like this. Oh, I can't make this startup work because I don't have money and I can't go find money, or oh, I can't elevate to a position that I want to elevate to inside of one of these companies because I had a tough background and I'm too far behind, so I can't catch up. Eradicate all of those excuses. Get rid of those, because you're now listening to a human who has overcome far more than any of us dare to dream of.
Yep.
Dare to dream of. So glad, Jodi, you shared your origin story. Now, about the month that you were on campus at the farm before we met you, the reason why Larry and I and Jeff did not know that is because of how polished you were.
Right.
Yeah. We just presumed that you were like a student body president of one of your class,
Yep.
that you had attended an Ivy League feeder school somewhere in the Northeast, and then found your way over to Stanford. This is what we thought, that you were a math Olympian or something, and that's why we had no idea. We had no idea. Highly polished, brother. Okay, we're
Steve,
getting into
let me
five
just say
questions.
one thing
Oh yeah,
before we
sorry,
move
Larry.
on.
Go ahead. Sorry.
So I didn't realize it was close in. I knew, and Brandon, just so you know, we wanted to share. We all talked amongst ourselves. We of course knew Jodi's origin story, and we wanted to you to see his credentials and incredible credentials for what they are, and also, as I alluded to the throughput, what's amazing is Jodi's taken that background, and everything he has done is all focused on helping at-risk um, youth and adults, right, Jodi? Like, people at all different phases. So it's not like he figures stuff out and he's by. Everything he's done has been focused on trying to elevate others in that have been in situations that, dare I say, that's why I interjected in his origin story. He wasn't like asked to do that. He had no choice. He was in a situation where what else was he gonna do? And there's a lot of folks in situations and circumstances that they find themselves through lack of anything that they've done that they can't help. And so I have such the admiration and all the things I feel for Jodi, not only for him elevating himself from where he was to where he is now, but to actually every moment he's working on helping those who are in similar situations that he found himself in. So I just wanted to restate that. And we knew his origin story, but we didn't know the full origin story, like the Albuquerque part. You had told me your grandfather you'd been with, but I didn't know the Albuquerque and
Right.
learning Spanish and whatnot, and the full story. So thank you so much for sharing that vulnerability with us. We so appreciate it. D, the floor is yours now.
All right, thanks, LT. Jodi, 5 questions. The next section, I hit you with one, Larry hit you with another. We go back and forth until we arrive at 5. Starting off, take yourself back. Imagine the first branding experience you had. And this branding experience, like, it flipped your wig. You could not believe how much you were into this brand, attached to it, loved it, loved spending time with it, or being seen with it, or with it on. what was this first branding experience for you that was akin to a first love?
Oh, that's good. I'm still looking for my first love, DC.
Okay. I feel you. I feel you.
That's another show. I think my branding experience would have to have been Allen Iverson, AI.
AI. Yeah.
We
Just
love us some AI, both DC and I. Go ahead.
it just like growing up, I think the NBA has always been, one of the ways out. You either got, wicked jump shot or,
Mm-hmm.
I think we know the other part of that lyric. But
Yeah.
and Iverson, man, just embodied what it meant to come from the bottom. He got into like trouble early on too, right?
He
Yep.
did. Yeah. Yeah.
And then
And by the way, he was in the wrong place at the wrong time too. Not anything he did.
exactly. And then to have someone, take a chance on him, right? And he was able to deliver in spades. But not only that, kept his identity, right? And the community
Yes.
had kind of supported him and embraced him. And then he got on the world's largest stage and delivered over and over and over again. Just like for us, like changed the world. Like even beyond like basketball, just
Yeah.
what it means to come up and the style and the drip and the finesse and the braids, right? He's got his own hairstyle, right? Like it was crazy, right? So our style of play, swag, just like what it meant to be like a ball player was less about playing ball and more about I am who I am, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's gonna take me as far as possible. And so, I mean, still to this day, even some of the Chinese stuff, we have like Chinese tattoos and all that. So like it still
Yeah.
follows, right? Like who I believe myself to be and who I know I can become. Really, really from AI.
That's deep, D. I love this.
I do too.
So when you were in Brooklyn,
Brooklyn.
okay, and in that formative time, that's AI was in the midst of he was being himself. Was there something you were feeling about your situation, and what was that the connection to him? Was it a deeper thing, or what did you realize it consciously? I guess is what I'm asking.
Yeah, I think it wasn't just me. I think everybody in the
Yeah,
neighborhood, right, realized that AI he was like the chosen one. We call him the answer, right? Like he
right.
was right, and the answer not just in a basketball sense, but to like all the problems we're going through. Like he had his own clothing line, right?
And he
Again,
was unapologetic about it.
unapologetic, was willing to get fined, sued, right? Blackballed eventually, but like that was him, and that resonated with us because we always felt like society blackballed us, didn't respect our lifestyle. I mean, we
Right.
had uniforms in school. This is a good example. I went to PS 93, and we would always have to wear uniforms, right? Which I get the purpose of that. But then Iverson used to get fined because he didn't wear the uniform to the ball.
Right.
He wore like I'm wearing my shorts how I'm coming with the jerseys, heavy chains, earrings, 100,000 in each ear, bust down watches. Like he was doing what he wanted, right? With the AI braids and like every Friday when we get to wear what we want, come and dripped out like AI every time, every time, every time. Yeah. So it was deeper for us as kids.
Sure.
AI. Not surprised that would be your selection as the brand at all, Jodi. Quick connection to AI. So when he was rising to prominence, even before, because when I was leading the Sprite brand, we like to catch athletes that we thought represented the ethos of obey your thirst. And AI was certainly one of those that I paid close attention to. Little known story. We did a deal with AI. We did a piece of film with AI, which we were going to launch.
Wow.
Unfortunately, before we launched, he was on a freeway somewhere, pulled over, and they found weaponry and I think weed, might have been something else, but let's just say weed.
Right.
So as you can imagine, at that time, to try to convince a conservative Southern-based company that represents Americana exported around the world to have a brand, even though it was a different brand than Coke, Sprite,
Right.
launch something with AI became problematic. It is one of two regrets that I have in my entire time working at the Coca-Cola company. One is releasing that, because we were already doing well. It would have just been nuts to also have
Oh,
AI.
yes.
And we were, before we actually launched, one of the things that we were looking at is how is he going to handle the All-Star game, which was in Cleveland? Is he going to wear his cornrows or not? He did, but that was a thing back then.
Mhm.
That was a thing back then.
Right.
About AI, my second regret is that I never worked with Dr. Dre. But AI, classic, classic. All right, LT, next question, brother.
Well, I love that you shared that story too, Jody. We always get the connections here running in all different directions. Okay,
Yep.
Jody, question two. Who is
So
Hatters having the most influence on your career?
my career, I feel like at this point, it's more of tech CEOs who are becoming thought leaders in a sense. So
Gotcha.
I consume way too much. Like there's this popular thread. It's called like leaked tech CEO emails. So there's just a number of things like that just to get a complete picture of what are technologists thinking as they're building out the future, right? And
Mhm.
some of the readings that are really resonating with me is Jensen Huang from NVIDIA.
Mm,
Like have it no, it's interesting. I'm actually sitting in the Huang's like engineering center like right now.
mm,
You know, there's a trying to embody a bit of the spirit here, but the way you can be patient with like technology, even though it has such a disruptive force, right? And the speed of innovation and pace of iteration is 10x what it used to be yesterday. But the vision I feel that he had laid out and the risk that him and his team had taken, it took 20 plus years to manifest itself, right? Where they're quietly building in the background. And then you have the dawn of AI, at least for the general population to be able to interact with on a consumer level. They are the bedrock for like all the innovation we're seeing, right? Even some of the research that came out of some really, really highly prestigious labs, like they were all using NVIDIA products, right?
mm, mm,
NVIDIA started, you say very humble beginnings, but the Denny's restaurant, man. Like, right? And so like
mm.
stuff like that just reinforces in my mind, like your vision has to be 20, 30, 40 years out. Even if the rest of the world doesn't see it, you have to be committed to that, right? Because you are creating the future that you're going to pull everyone else into, but you got to lay that foundation for them. So when the moment is right, like you've already set up the pieces. And so I think Huang is probably the one that's on my mind the most.
I love this. I love this in so many ways. Just for the branders who may not know this, what Jody was referring to, a lot of folks in Silicon Valley know this. Like AI's been cooking for a long time, folks, long time, brand nerds. And so it's only in the last few years, really with ChatGPT, you got to give them credit for that, that the public at large was really exposed to what AI was about. There was a lot of closed AI, right, Jody, that
Exactly the
maybe you
labs.
didn't know that you were playing with or not, but that became a big thing. But this has been cooking for a long time, and what Jody's suggesting is that if you're NVIDIA and you're the NVIDIA founder, I can't pronounce his name, so I don't even want to try. Um, what you've been thinking about this for many years, and this is now the money's coming to fruition, but he's known for a very long time. It was just a question of when this was going to blow up, not if. So Jody having the vision and foresight to be thinking that way now, that's why he's special.
Yeah, that would take.
Yeah, this dude is heavy. So, brand nerds, most of you all know this, but for those of you all who do not, NVIDIA, its market cap is $4 trillion with a T.
Yes. And he didn't misspeak. That's with a T.
Yeah, with a T. So not billions, $4 trillion. Larry and I, you know this as well, Jody. We like analogs. There is a tree. I think it's called the longleaf pine tree. I believe it's it. So a longleaf pine tree will spend years growing its root system. So there will be nothing that you can visibly see above ground that would indicate to you that this longleaf pine tree is growing. It looks like it's just stuck. But beneath ground, it is growing like at a ridiculous rate to create a foundation for a large tree. Once it has established its root system, it grows above ground almost like magic, how quickly it grows. This is what NVIDIA did. They spent years, this is what Jodi said, establishing their foundation, had a vision decades out, and then waited to pounce.
Yeah.
Waited to pounce. Damn, that's good. All right, any more, Larry, before we go to the next question?
No, let's go to the next question.
All right, Jodi. In your young life, you've had many W's, wins, many. As Jameis Winston used to do, I think he still does it. He used to put the dubs up and put them in his mouth like, we eating W's over here. This is the former #1 pick out of Florida State quarterback, Jameis Winston. We don't want to know about any of your W's in this next question, Jodi. We want to know your biggest F up. Big one, wet, danky. You made the mistake. Nobody else. No, not the market change. You made the mistake. And what did you learn from it?
Yeah, this would have to be during the pandemic or shortly thereafter. I know the pandemic stretched for a long period of time for certain geographies, but I was still at Reddit. I think we were approaching about 90 million. This was during Wall Street Bets kind of saga, right? Where you had all those communities.
Yeah.
Right. That was just a crazy time to be alive, crazy time to be in like fintech in general. But Reddit had a huge community. And that is the backdrop for this like F up that I'm going to describe.
Okay.
So Reddit, I think at this point is about 18 years old. This is pre-IPO, a lot of growth, right? A lot of hiring, and multiple engineers and product designers coming on board every day, building out new products, whether that's NFTs, crypto stuff, like everything. And so I'm seeing that rapid pace of growth, right?
And by the way, I just also want to say at that time, Reddit was at the epicenter of so much of tech innovation and what tech was about, the circa 2020, 2021. Go ahead.
No, absolutely. So they had a huge developer community that was building stuff right on top of Reddit, monetizing different products. And so it was quite a time to be alive, as Drizzy Future might say. My brother was beginning a startup at that time too, and he did some rapid recruiting, rapid hiring, right? And I had assumed that those two environments were the same. 18-year-old startup, because Reddit was still a startup at that time. We drove like $90 million like in sales within like 2 months, right? So I'm seeing all that growth. You get used to that. You get intoxicated by it. You're launching products every week. Mind you, you have 1,000 engineers, right? So pick the Reddit. So my brother's like, I'm starting the startup. We're doing some music tech stuff. I know you were Create Safe. So we're managing like Grimes, Take a Day Trip, Blood Pop, Lady Gaga. It was crazy. So it was like, you've already done that. Can you come in and like help get us like up to speed? So I think I'm doing my brother a favor.
Mm-hmm.
My brother had a startup, early stage startup, totally different context, right? Than what I was experiencing on a day-to-day with Reddit.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember trying to push the engineering team to launch a particular set of like products and features. Mm-hmm. And some of the pushback I had gotten was, we're not sure if we can meet this like timeline. Mm-hmm. In my mind, because there's no such thing as a timeline. Like, we're releasing stuff like every week. What do you mean? Like, there should be products coming out every single day. We should be A/B testing. We should be releasing new features. And I had a classic explosion moment. The amount of pressure I think I put on that team and my delivery of it, right? Comparing what I was seeing with my brother's startup with what I was experiencing day to day at Reddit, which was totally out of context. And instead of it being an inspiring message, it came across as like, I am accusing them of being incompetent. I'm not, being in tune with where they're at as far as an early stage startup. And it was so discouraging. Like 80% of the engineering team like quit.
Wow.
Quit. And mind you, this isn't my startup. This is my brother's startup.
Right.
Yeah.
And when you say 80%, how many engineers are we talking?
This is like 9, 10.
Okay.
You're just like,
Wow. It's pretty much the whole, it's
the whole
definitely,
company, everything is
yeah.
done. And my brother never said anything about it. He was just like, hey man, like maybe they weren't like cut out. But I knew like deeply, I came in and like effed up like his whole startup. He had to do something like different, like pivot. It was crazy. It was crazy, but it was totally my fault. And they thought me coming in to like help out with
Yeah.
force multiplier. Totally didn't. Totally didn't. Yeah.
So what'd you learn from that?
One, proper context, right? Always have proper context. And instead of these large scale kind of meetings where you may seem critical or that you're criticizing, it's best to do the one-on-ones, do the co-building, right? Instead of, coming in, parachuting into an operation, I should have been the one pushing code with the engineers. Not just give orders like, let me pull up a terminal and let me push the first version. Let me show you how I would do it or how they've done. Let me show you some docs from like my earlier experiences. Here are the frameworks that we use, but I'm gonna do the first version. Like I'll sit here with you and do it. And that would have been a much better approach. And it was really after that experience, and then I really went on my own like programming journey and like started like learning to code and learn to design myself just because of that experience. Like I have to be able to do as much as I'm asking the individuals around me, especially at the earliest stages. Yeah.
D, any thoughts here?
I don't.
Yeah,
That's a hell of a learning.
that is. And dare I say you're not going to do that again.
No, not at all. But it was a humbling moment for sure. And then really changed my perspective on like how to approach like building a team, contributing to a team, right? And less of this kind of hierarchical ordering, right? Of contribution.
Ooh, that's deep. All right, Jodi, next question. Question 4, regarding tech and marketing. And man, you've been in the middle of so many things here. Can you tell us where you think marketers should lean in or best leverage tech? Or you can tell us areas they should be leery or simply avoid. What say you?
Yeah, I don't want to be too prescriptive here, but one thing I will say with the explosion of agents, right? So let's think of it in the context of marketing. An agent can go and accomplish a series of tasks as any human would be able to do. So there's outreach, responding to emails, maybe writing emails, developing campaigns, launching campaigns, running A/B tests, creating experiments, deriving insights and data, and sending out reports to clients, etc. And while I think that helps supercharge what it means to be a marketer, first of all, I think all founders are marketers too, like hands down, right? But while that is like a superpower, I do feel that the human element is being lost. I think the amount of spam in the marketplace is a detriment. And those marketers who actually have personality, who are innovative, who are creative, who show up in person, right? Who are not a part of the proliferation of agents running around the internet spamming everyone with the same kind of generic messaging are going to be the ones who come out victorious. Yeah. AI agents are wild. The amount of things that they can do. You can easily saturate the market with the wrong messaging or outreach strategy for your brand very quickly. Whereas you think about earlier times, a bad campaign, a bad messaging kind of protocol, you can dial that back, right? Because you haven't saturated the entire market with that mistake. Now, like within like a matter of like minutes, agents can execute a campaign and keep that thing running full throttle faster than any humans could like. It's crazy.
Wow. That's a deep one. D, any thoughts about that before we go to the next question?
Back in the day, there's another quote. Thanks, Larry. That I am now understanding based on what you're saying, Jodi, that's even worse today. But back in the day, the quote was, "Nothing kills a bad product as fast as great advertising. Yeah. That was before this time. That was before AI agents. Okay. That was before that. Now, woo.
Yeah. Yeah. Like you could basically destroy your entire customer profile. Like that segment of like ideal clients instantly. And like reach everybody, right? And I love how you put that. Like it could be a bad product may not be the right fit, but because you blasted it through everyone, and advertising is great because it's tailored directly towards
Right.
right? What the agent knows about their browsing behavior, what they've looked at, where they locate. Like it knows everything. It's very targeted, specialized, like targeting for whoever you want to reach. And then it's pushing the product not only to them, but to everyone in their ecosystem. So everyone finds out about this terrible experience instantly. And then your brand and name is attached to it. Now, how do you reverse that? Right.
Yeah, I had a former boss, Chris Lowe. And I remember going into his office one day and describing to him the strategy behind this wonderful idea that our team had that we were planning on executing. I don't remember what it was. I get done, he's shaking his head. This all sounds good. And then he asked this question, which stopped everything in my head immediately. It was like in my brain, I was zooming on like a Ducati to convince this man of what we were doing was the right thing to do. And he took out a steel pole and put it through the front wheel of my Ducati. And I went over the handlebars. He said, what might be the unintended negative consequences of your brilliant strategy? Yeah, young Buck was stuck. hadn't considered that one. I've only thought about in the team. We've only thought about how this could go well, which leads me to this based on your answer to the question. It feels to me, Jodi and LT, that what the brand nerds would be good to ask themselves upon launching any new product, any new campaign, any new service,
Any new brand.
any new brand is to consider two questions. The one that they have already considered, which is why they're launching it, is how great it can be. But the second question is if this thing goes pear-shaped, what are they going to do and how fast can they do it?
Right.
I don't think many people ask themselves that second question. They just ask themselves the first one. That's a great answer, Jodi. All right, I'm going to go to the final question. Larry, any more from you before I go to the final question? All right, Jodi. What are you most proud of, brother?
I think my most proudest moment is probably my son. My son. Yeah. More broadly, my family in general. But I had my son when I was 15 years old. So for a large portion of his life, I was going through my own trials and tribulations. And I was a child having a child. So in some regards, he's a bit of a younger brother to me, but biological son. And during the pandemic, he had his own series of troubles, living where he was at in New York, and he essentially ran away and decided to join me in California. I was in Atlanta for a bit, and then came up to New York to grab him, and then he went back to California with me. We didn't have the best relationship because I'm virtually a stranger to him at this point. He's 10, 11, right? Doesn't really know me, has no idea what I'm doing at Stanford, what academia even means, what technology is, right? And he just embraced that journey with a virtual stranger, even though we share genetic code.
What's your son's name, by the way?
Jodius. Yeah. And just the young man he's turned into has been something to marvel at. Like, he's never been in trouble at all. Into tech on his own, like does music, does gaming, and helps take care of the rest of the family that lives in Houston. So he's usually down there, like making sure the household remains functional and productive. And that's all him while I go out and travel everywhere. He's been rock solid. So that's probably the most, proudest moment I've had and continue to have.
That's amazing. That's awesome.
It is. Yeah, it's amazing, Jodi. Yeah.
Uh, Nothing to add to that. I love that. I love that, Jodi. All right. So D, we're gonna segue to man, God, one of these shows, they go so fast. Oh, this is so great, Jodi. So you know the next segment. It's what's popping? What's popping, D? What's popping, Jodi?
What's popping?
So, Jodi, as you know, this is our chance to shout out, shout down, or simply air something happening in and around marketing today that we think is good fodder for discussion. And I believe you have something for us.
Yeah, there's a very fast growing startup called Cluely.
Can you spell that?
Cluely, I believe. Young gentleman out of Colombia, allegedly, and maybe you could pull this up for the audience. Was trying to get a job at Amazon. You know, they have a bunch of coding tests. Coding tests are super hard, by the way. And so he had developed some what he had called cheating software to like pass all these technical assessments.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I got the job and then told the whole world how he did it. And of course, you know, I think here's a story that, like the myth, right? I wasn't there, and I don't know him personally, but Columbia University, which would have been his alma mater, but they threw him out. And then he goes on to start the company and raise about like 16 million from A16Z. And yeah, just had a like rocket ship growth for sure. And what one thing that he had said, which I think is very relevant to what's popping, is that there is not enough content creators. Right? Like people are consuming more content. Like there are more people online scrolling, looking for stuff to engage with. But the proportion of like content creators has not increased at like the same rate.
Wow.
So we actually need more people creating stuff, right? Because the hunger for it is there. So I think brands have a unique opportunity to be a part of that like, creation, right? But more new, authentic, engaging creators that are developing content on behalf of a particular brand, a particular movement, right? Sharing those ethos. So that's what's popping for me.
Ooh, you said a lot there. So let me two things, D. Let me just for the audience, I just looked up Cluely, and when you go, it's cluely.com, and it says the headline is Invisible AI that thinks for you. Cluely is an undetectable desktop app that gives you the answers you didn't study for in every meeting and conversation. That's Cluely. Um, the second part of what you said is that there's not enough content. I think is really incredibly interesting. And you said two words that I think that many times are often short shrift for content creators. Genuine,
Yeah.
right? It has to be something that is genuine and engaging.
Yeah.
And it's easy to say those words. It's very difficult to do those things. And in too often, especially when it comes to brand, you know, they don't know who they are as brands. So then if you don't know who you are as a brand, if you don't know what your positioning is and what you're in both the marketplace and really internally what your brand is about and who your customer or consumer is, then how could you be genuine? Because you don't even know who you're being genuine about, right? And so that's one of the biggest pet peeves DC and I have all the time is we see so much lousy, you know, brand content because we believe it goes back to not knowing who you are. So that's my reaction very quickly to what you've said, which I completely agree with. D, what say you?
I'm going to hit this from the other angle. I'm glad you hit it from the angle of not enough content creators. What's the name of the company again, Jodi?
Cluely.
Cluely. Okay, Cluely. On their website, what I heard you say, what I heard you read, LT, is part of their description of themselves is they give the answers you didn't study for.
Yes,
Okay. That's heavy.
that is.
Yeah. The
That's great
answers
positioning, man.
you did not study for. Now, they did not say this in their on their website. I've not read their website, inherent in giving you the answers you didn't study for is also the questions you didn't even think to ask.
Right.
Yeah. You not only did you not have the answer, you didn't have the fucking question.
Right.
So we're going to give you the answers and things you didn't study for from questions you did not even know to ask. So he started this, Jodi, you said, after creating something that allowed people to get through these tests, code tests,
Yep.
to get a job at Amazon and these other companies.
Right.
And where I am, what's popping for me is that we in the tech space are overly enamored with codes and coding.
Yeah.
Code and coding. What this brother did is he said, yes, while the rest of you all are interested in code and coding, I want to get down to the source code.
Yeah.
If I get down to the source code beneath the questions that Amazon and other companies are asking me to determine that if I can code or not at a level that works for them, if I'm down with the source code, I can answer all of the rest of the code that you have. So what's popping for me, for the brand nerds, and for you, Jodi, and you, Larry, is find the source code.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what's popping for me.
Yes.
DC, what I appreciate about your description of the tech kind of ecosystem hyper indexing on code and programming.
Yeah.
What we see with this gentleman is maybe one of the first founders to realize that you have to get in front of people,
Yeah.
right? You have to resonate with people. Like, what is the pain point, right? And you need to push on that, right? Like, part of his team were like influencers. They weren't like, that's how he had the explosive growth. And initially, you said there's a lot of things that they're alluding to in this kind of tagline. They were very upfront at first about like, this is cheating software, but it won't be considered cheating once we're done changing the world. It'll just be business as usual. Like, just leaning into that. If we are the villains today, and that's what's needed to become the heroes of tomorrow, then like, we'll do that. But we'll lean into that, and we'll get this out to the world because people can resonate with that. That there are these barriers that prevent them from doing the thing that they want to be doing, right? And if there was a solution that resonate with the by any means necessary to achieve your dreams, I think a lot of subscribe to that, and it turns out a lot of people did.
Yeah. No doubt. What's the Cooley's founder again, Jodi? What's his name?
I'll shoot you his name. He's a rock star though, man.
That's okay. You can pull it up. That's fine. That's well, boy, what a great what's poppin', D, huh?
Wow. Yeah.
All right. We are at the show close, man. I wish this wasn't ending, but it is. All right. So D, I'm gonna start with mine.
Yes, please.
So I have 7 things. Okay. Number 1 is brand nerds. Education, education, education. If Jodi can focus on learning and education in the most dire situation one can do, how about you? What can it do for you? Too often in our culture and society today, I think education, people say, I don't need education. I could just code or I could just do. No, there's the education component is just so huge. And he is example 1 of what one can do from literally going from prison to being a Silicon Valley CEO founder. So that education did that. That's number 1. Number 2, love Jodi's brand. DC and I, funny enough, D, if you remember when AI was at Georgetown, I remember you and I calling one another like, did you see this dude? Like, I feel like you and I were on him really quick when he was a freshman at Georgetown.
Shout John Thompson. Rest
Exactly.
in power.
does not happen without John Thompson. And brand nerds, if you ever want to read a great book, John Thompson wrote a memoir right before he passed. It's amazing. I highly recommend that book. So going back to this, Jodi's brand, he talked about AI, Allen Iverson, and the learning from a brand standpoint, you best know who you are and deliver over and over again. AI is king of that. That's the second one. Number three, if you want to be a successful CEO, not just in tech, but certainly in tech, like Jodi, you notice Jodi talked about when we asked him in the second question, who is helping you the most in terms of your career today. He was talking about tech, the most successful CEOs. And what he talked about was that the commonality there in the Envision CEO was that they have real vision and they're thinking way in advance. So he's already thinking, he's thinking 5, 10, 20 years in advance. That's what you have to have, is that vision. That's number three. Number four, and this is a two-parter here, number four. Jodi learned from his biggest F up with his brother's startup, two big ones. As a leader, you need to think about what you're saying and how it lands and how it's landing. Is it encouraging or discouraging? It's going to be one or the other. You got to be thinking about always being encouraging. And the second part of that is maybe a leader's best move is to roll up your sleeves and work beside folks so they feel like you're with them, literally and figuratively, that you're with them. And number six, as a brand, you better know who you are, including your brand purpose and who is your brand lover. If you don't know that, as we were talking about producing brand content, how can you produce brand content that's genuine and engaging if you don't know those things? And dare I say, brand nerds, most brands do not know those things. They think they do, but many think they do, but they don't. And the last one is, as Jodi was alluding to about Cluely, you got to resonate with real people. We have all this tech, we have AI doing all these things for us, but if you're not resonating and connecting with real people, there's going to be an issue. Those are mine.
Fantastic, Larry. We have points of connection, no surprise. Jodi, my brilliant little brother.
Appreciate that, man.
Yeah. This is the part of the program where I make an attempt to describe, from my vantage point, what is it that the human before me has that no one else has in the way that
you remember this on the other side of the glass at KZSU when you do this?
Yeah, yes. That's right. Sitting in the studio, tight, right. Real tight. So we're still doing it, Jodi. We're still doing it. And I've said in prior podcasts, Jodi, that for people that I know and love, it's more difficult for me because I know them and love them. So sometimes it's challenging for me to discern what have I discovered in this conversation that allows me to distill down the unique thing that you are offering to all of us. And when I do this, Jodi, I don't do it thinking that I'm right. I'm doing this purely based on feel. So with that, I want to go to your answer to the question of your first branding experience. That was like a first love. And Larry's already talked about it, and that's AI, Allen Iverson. You talked about the fact that he was from the bottom. He kept his identity, style, his drip, his swag, and that his nickname being the answer for you and others growing up around you, that could be interpreted as this young man had the answers to the problems. He had the answers to the problem. Second, when we talk to you about who is or who has had the most influence in your career, you talked about CEOs, tech CEOs, who have become and or are becoming thought leaders. And you talked about the brother CEO from NVIDIA, and how he built something, started in Denny's, shout Denny's one time, built something out of a breakfast place. He and his partners waited for 20 to 30 years patiently. They were still building. They almost went out of business, I think, several times. And the dawn of these little small chips that become what powers AI, they were patient. And then when the market came to them, boom, they exploded. They exploded. But they were patient first. And then when we ask you the question about your biggest F up, you talked about your brother's company. You were hired because your brother looked at you as this, I'm in tech. My brother knows tech. He's at the zenith of tech. Certainly the guy at Stanford, where the tech companies that are run by titans today, many of them have either attended Stanford or have been funded by VCs that are around Stanford with Stanford. Like, it's undeniable. He brings you in like, yo, I got the secret weapon. And you come in and fuck it up. Okay. But you mentioned,
Not funny, but
yeah, you mentioned, Jodi, the moment that you did what you did to the engineers, where they felt, oh my goodness, am I like not capable? Should I even be here? And then I'm out. 80% of these engineers, you describe that as an explosion moment. An explosion moment. And then you said that your brother, he didn't put it on you. He was gracious. He's like, hey, maybe they weren't built for this. So your brother was patient with you in spite of your explosion moment. Now, as my mama would say, we have a quote that they've heard on this podcast many times, Brand Nerds. I say it at least once a week. Sometimes Larry says it once a week. My mother, rest in power, Mama Kaba, and she used to say, when I would drone on about a subject, she would say, baby, are you arriving at a point? And I'd say, yes, Mom, I'm arriving at a point. So Brand Nerds and Jodi, I'm arriving at a point. Go back to Allen Iverson. I want to talk about his game. All right. AI's game was predicated on speed. However, the setup to his speed was patience. Brand Nerds, go look at the film of when AI crossed up his idol,
Okay.
Jordan. Just go look at that. Find some content where Allen Iverson is explaining that moment. And what he says is, I did my crossover move to see if he would bite. Once he figured out, this is AI, Allen Iverson, determined based on the setup of what Jordan would do to defend it, then he did it again and struck. Allen Iverson's game was predicated on the combination of patience and explosion. That was his game. Let's go to the CEO of NVIDIA. Patient for 20, 30 years. AI starts to come to them, explosion in their market cap, in their power, in their capability. Patience and explosion. And then finally, your brother and his company. You had an explosion moment, just like AI, just like Allen Iverson. Your brother brought patience to that moment. Balance. AI athlete, explosion, patience. NVIDIA as a company, vision, planning, patience, going after it, $4,000 market cap, explosion. And then finally, your brother. You explode on the team, you spaz out, your brother gives you patience. In those two, I believe I have now come to a conclusion about what you bring to the world, my brother Jodi. And I believe you are the authentic AI of the tech game. Yeah.
How about that?
That's deep. That's deep.
Yeah.
See, he arrived at a point that was amazing.
There's a triple entendre right there too, because you got AI.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's loaded that one.
Yeah.
Loaded.
All right, Jodi. Before we sign off, how's that land in A?
No, it's just, I think it's the first time in my life where I even like sat down and thought about all the interconnectivity of everything that I've seen, what's happening in the world, how our lives cross paths all those years ago, and then to be in this moment. And that foundation, when you were talking about that patience, I remember being right at the precipice, as they would say, of like dropping out because I had no patience. I had seen a lot of classmates within my first few weeks, like dropping out, raising millions of dollars. I was like, well, I guess this is the path. And he was like, stay patient. Like it's gonna happen. Like keep building. Like you're here for a reason. Like you have to like complete the mission, fulfill the vision. And here we are, like 5 years later, and midst of true tech revolution, man. A lot of economic upheaval, a lot of social and political turmoil, right, and turbulence, and we're building something that actually matters. And that, yeah, it's crazy. I would have never seen this, and then to hear it all, even on this podcast here, is definitely a testament to that theory you just proposed for us, DC, for sure.
My man, can I just say one other thing, Larry, before we get out of here? Actually, two things. Your life that you've lived up to this point, in totality, is the same thing.
Yep.
You're in prison, brother.
Mm-hmm.
You're studying. You don't know where it's going to go.
Right.
You were patiently sticking to the program.
Yeah.
You get to Stanford and you explode. You mentioned 50 Cent when you were in Brooklyn, which I'm from Detroit. I never called Brooklyn. I called Brooklyn Crooklyn.
That's right.
That's what I called it. And my people, we called Brooklyn Crooklyn. Out of respect, by the way. Out of respect.
It's a different we had to say that at the beginning.
Yeah, at that time. Yes.
2025 Brooklyn ain't Crooklyn anymore.
Yeah, it ain't Crooklyn anymore. So you mentioned when you got to Brooklyn, 50 Cent was ruling the world of hip hop, not just East Coast. He was ruling it around the world.
Yep.
And one of my favorite bars from 50 Cent, to tie this back to my favorite bar at the opening of Hova, is this: I've been patiently waiting for a track to explode on.
Mic drop, DC.
That's you, brother. That's you.
Yeah. Amen to that.
Yes.
Amen to that. And before I hit the close, I remember the conversations that, and again, Jeff was part of that. Jeff, DC, and I had with you, and we were imploring you, please, because we were worried that you were going to drop out. We're like, get through this semester. Remember, in Stanford's quarters, get through the quarter, and then reevaluate. Just get through the quarter. And then I remember as time went by, each time we can tell, oh, okay, he's getting this, right?
Yep.
And so, God willing, that's what happened, right? I
think one time too, before the closing, LT and DC, like, I think for people out there, you have to take a bet on someone that represents something.
Yes.
You all came back, you all didn't know me. I came back all the time to do the show, and then like, where's Jodi at? Like every time. And You know, I know we're seeing a lot of like growth. I would never imagine, you know, work with JP Morgan Chase or like Workday or like any of those, NBA, any of those, right? That would have never happened for me had I not had that initial like support, people going out of their way to like make sure I was all right. And then I continued on the journey. So I think for people out there who do have some level of influence or, you know, social stature, like you can leverage that for longer term bets on people, right? Who are fallible and malleable at the same time. So that's my final words on that. I appreciate you too. And Jeff too, man.
That is a huge mic drop. Jay, we're going to go to the real close now. Brand nerds, thanks for listening to Brands, Beats, and Bytes. The executive producers are Jeff Shirley, Daryl D.C. Cobbin, Larry Taman, Haley Cobbin, Jay Tate, honorary producer Jodi Anderson Jr., who will always...
Yes.
And Tom Dioro.
The Pod Fa.
That's right. And Tom, oh man, he listens to this one. Woo. If you do like this podcast, Brand Nerds, please subscribe and share. And for those on Apple Podcasts, if you are so inclined, we love those excellent reviews. We hope you enjoyed this podcast, and we look forward to next time, where we will have more insightful and enlightening talk about marketing